folks, welcome to the first walking history video. So Australia gave me the travel bug and I don't want to let it go so soon, so I'm going to be doing these history videos where I'll be travelling across the world just digging into the history of the local place. Now, I don't have the money to go travelling across the world just yet. I'd like to go back to Australia, I'd like to go to Normandy, I'd like to go to Lexington and Concord, I'd like to go to Saigon, I'd like to go back to Venice, but can't right now. So let's just start digging through the history on my doorstep. Case in point, Lillington Parish Church, less than a quarter of a mile from my house, and over 1500 years of history. So this hilltop has been a burial ground and a site of worship ever since the Lillingas, or the people of Lilla, settled the region during the second wave of Anglo-Saxon settlement back in the 570s. They settled the region between the Avon and the Lem, established their little farming communities, and this hilltop, for some reason they chose it as sacred. In 597, Christian missionaries came over and started converting the pagan population over to the gospel, and within 80 years the entire island had converted, which meant that this pagan site of worship ended up becoming a church. Here's some history for you. This red sandstone wall is most likely part of the original building. Either part of the original building or part of a remodelling not long after. So in 760, during the reign of King Offa, a chapel was built, most likely built out of wood, but some of it could have been stone. But then, during the reign of King Edgar the Peaceable, the chapel was lightly rebuilt. So, about the 970s. Meaning this wall here, the red sandstone bits, well, that's over 1,000 years old and it still holds up to this day. My old house in Birmingham was falling down, and that was, I don't know, less than 20 years old. This right here, over 1,000 years old, and it still holds up. They just don't build it like they used to. Originally this wall did not have that window, that was added in later. I couldn't find out when it happens. After King Alfred the Great drove off the Vikings in what is my favourite portion of history, he reshaped the way that the country is run. He'd done away with the scattered farms and settlements and put everything into a more centralised and grid layout. So the four main roads that made up the village of Lillington, as it started to be known then, were Church Lane, Vicarage Road, just down there. At the bottom of Vicarage Road there's Covington Road, and just over there there's Lime Avenue. So these four roads that crisscrossed each other around this church formed the centre of what would become the village of Lillington. And my house is just over there on the other side of them trees. Whilst Canute the Great was fighting for the crown, he ended up raiding and burning his way across Leamington and Coventry, and likely sacked this church. And once he won the crown, in order to make amends, he refurbished the place And the Saxon door is one of those replacements, one of those refurbishments. Just trying to make amends for all the damage he did, like a good Viking Christian should. Now, it would be safe to assume that the old Saxon door is the wooden one and not the one with glass. But I am an idiot, so let's not assume. Door over almost 1,000 years old. Yeah, that's pretty old. The Kenilworth Priory was founded in 1122, and King Henry I gave a Minster church over in Leekwootton, a bunch of other lands and estates in Warwickshire, to a fella called Geoffrey de Clinton. I've been watching too much Game of Thrones. And he, in turn, gave all that land over to the Kenilworth Priory. And Lillington Church and a quarter of its lands went over to the Priory as well. Years, as the woodland in the area started getting cleared, eventually 2/3 of the land belonging to the Lillington Parish Church ended up going over to the Kenilworth Priory. And the land stayed with the Kenilworth Priory until in 1538, when King Henry VIII threw a massive hissy fit over not being able to get a divorce, and he ended up saying, actually, nah, you know what, all this priory land, it's mine, I'm going to do what I want with it. Also known as the dissolution. Church was part of the Kenilworth Priory. In 1380, a small chapel to St. Catherine was built, and the bell tower there was built in 1480. And one of the bells that was cast back then still rings to this day. And I hear it every morning and I hear it every evening. And, well, it is lovely. After the dissolution, so after Henry got his divorce, the church property passed through various hands until in 1709 it was bought by Henry Wise, who was the keeper of the royal gardens for Queen Anne, and King George I. The non-church parts of the property, so the village of Lillington, that stayed with the Earls of Warwick until in 1805 the Gravel family was forced to sell because they were nearly bankrupt. He has my sympathies. 1790s, Leamington started developing its spa, and it became a spa town, hence the name Leamington Spa. We're creative like that, we English. And as a result, more people started moving over. And with more people, meant more houses. And with more houses, meant a bigger congregation. And with a bigger congregation, means you've got to expand your church. So, in 1847, a northern and a southern aisle was added into the church. So, this part here, and this part here, they were added in in 1847. Which means the central bit, that's the oldest bit, the original bit. And after the Great War, things for Lillington just kept on going. The motor firms from Birmingham and Coventry moved over to Leamington. The last of the church land was sold off during the 20s, More people kept on moving in, and as a result, Lillington and Leamington are one and the same now. There isn't a border really between them. Lillington is just part of Leamington now, just like Whitnash. That is that. Let's have a look here. As of the 2021 census, Lillington has 11,908 residents. That's quite a lot. So 3 churches they formed, an Anglican, a Catholic and a Free Church. They're all within half a mile of each other. And, well, each church has the same objective: preach the gospel, be a symbol of God's presence among his people. Can't fault them for that. Anyway, that's the end of my first video. Hope you've learned something. To my Australian and American friends, I hope to come over and cover your history soon. But for now, that was Lillington Parish Church. Hope you've enjoyed. God bless.